new show, it's not like watching a movie, which is, what we're used to, where people invest 2 hours of their time. You're asking people to commit to 13 episodes, and obviously Netflix makes it very convenient and easy to just watch one and then another and another. But it was really, really great for us to put all the time into the world, into the characters, into the details, to see fans really giving it a chance and embracing it and loving it. And the show is wildly successful, and hopefully the second season is going to continue.
Right.
We were talking yesterday at another event about how you have a really large international following. What do you think it is about the show that's resonating in places like Brazil and other markets?
We have an international cast to begin with, so that's, I'm Dutch, we have Bill who's from
Swede.
Sweden, we have Landon who's
Canadian.
Who else do we have? We have various countries represented. It's like the World Cup.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about the Netherlands. But yeah, and I think it's all about the subject matter, whether that transcends, whether it translates into various, territories, and clearly it does. It's just something that resonates with other people. It's, outcast a bit of, people, small towns are of course everywhere. The subject matter of werewolf and vampire, but done in a very intelligent way. I think it's sophisticated in a way that genre generally doesn't seem to be as sophisticated, so it gives it a whole new spin for a different audience to watch it, in terms of the production design, our music, our cinematography. It's just really on par with the movies that we all have seen and admired over the years, and that we're just not used to. Yes, with the beginning of Netflix, they've just set that bar really high, but when we started doing this and we had to explain to people that we were part of a web series or something, they really thought that we were going to make something that was crappy and lowbrow.
Well, one thing I've noticed is that horror truly is universal, and whether I'm in Iceland or Brazil or New Jersey, or Argentina, Chile, the fans are the same. They love it, and it's really great when you can give someone a really great, fun, scary story set in that world. Every country has their own monsters, whether it's trolls, whether it's the pistaco in Peru, whether it's, every country has its own, the ghosts in Japan, with the girls and the hair, you see the different similar themes in all the mangas. Every country has their own horror stories, and people love it when you can take a classic like the vampire, werewolf, Frankenstein, and monsters and reinvent them in an interesting way. And that's what we thought Brian McGreevy really did with his novel Hemlock Grove, and we wanted to create a series that felt something like more in the style of David Lynch, Twin Peaks, but almost with a touch of Douglas Sirk melodrama, but something that was spooky and stylized, intelligent and fun. And it was really great to see, I was in Chile and teenage kids were coming. They love Hemlock Grove. People are fascinated with small town American life, and we worked very hard to create a universe that is something special and unique, and of course putting a wonderful international movie star like Famke at the helm of it, at the center of it, you get all of her fans as well.
How has season 2 adopted the binge watching trend currently on Netflix? Is that something that you guys considered while filming?
How does it say that again?
How has season 2 adopted the binge watching trend on Netflix, where people just watch an entire season in one sitting?
Yeah, that's very much since Netflix started this whole model. That's what people do. They invented the term binge watching.
Yeah, there's actually now Netflix cheating, where if you go an episode ahead of your significant other, it's like a serious offense in a relationship. But no, it was instrumental in I remember in season 1 when we talked about all 13 episodes going on at once. It really changed the way we could write the show. We didn't have to write for commercial breaks. We didn't have to do recaps. Next week we didn't cliffhangers. You didn't have to have the characters speak about what about so? They didn't have to talk in dialogue that recapped what had happened. The great thing about Netflix is it is almost like a Papa John's or Domino's pizza that shows up. Like it's like 11 o'clock, and you just when that pizza shows up, you're like, oh yeah, pizza, I'll have a slice. Okay, now I'll have another one. And another. Next thing you've had 9 slices, and Netflix gives you that same satisfaction where you're right there in your home, you're with your friends, you put it on, you watch another one and another one. And we knew that, one of the things that we love Brian McGreevy's novel, and the first season we were fitting 13 episodes to that novel. So there were times you could feel when we were stretching. We felt in watching it after, we go, okay, I could feel this when we stretched it a little bit to get to this story point in 7, 8, and 9 so that it would end where the book ends. Now with season 2, Brian had set up these incredible characters in this world. We could really explore it. We could really write for Famke in a way that we couldn't before because we were following the book. So we could delve much deeper into her character because she's such an incredible actor with such amazing range. We wanted to show all the different layers of Olivia, and we fit it to 10 episodes so that everything was story, but we wrote it knowing that people in general are watching 3 or 4 at a time.
Why didn't you go with 13 episodes? Why did you go with 10 episodes?
Well, we talked story. We kind of talked about the sort of the budgetarily, story-wise, 13 episodes, how many huge moments can we have?
Mm-hmm.
We looked at, I think Orange is the New Black there was 10 episodes, or it was something we discussed with Netflix of what's the advantage? Is it going to be a better series at 13, or is it going to be a better series at 10? And sort of stretching, having those huge moments like the transformation. Obviously, we want the reformation. And as I said, okay, if we're going to do season 2, everyone's going, okay, what happens when they turns back into a human? What does that look like? We got to see what that looks like. And Spencer Susser, something he explored in his episode, is amazing. We realized that at 10 episodes, we were just a little more focused, and we could really make each episode, let's focus on making 10 amazing episodes and really writing those huge kind of big set pieces where people go, oh my God, I've never seen that done before. Mm-hmm. It was just a little more manageable, it was a little more focused, and instead of stretching it out, 13 worked for the book, but now that we were, creating story, we were off on our own without the book, we thought that 10 would be really, let's make 10 really great episodes, which we did.
Olivia was kind of the puppet master of season 1, and she seemed to have lost quite a bit of control, especially over her son at the end. How are things changing for her in season 2 in terms of how she's going to regroup to get her power back?
Well, there's of course the reconstruction of the tongue. I mean, that first has to happen, which was based on Chick Egley, who was our showrunner. Had a friend who that happened to, so he had the first-hand experience of understanding the logistics of how that all goes. So it is actually based on true facts. But yeah, so to see Olivia stripped of all that power and control that she's had in the past really sets up for a really great exploration of her character and what happens when you see a control freak, without the control, and how vulnerable do we get to see her. And that's really been a fun, for the 10 episodes that we've had with her this season. It's been really great to give her many different colors and a bit more humor and certainly a lot more vulnerability. But yet, this is Olivia, so you can always expect something unpredictable from her.
Was it horrifying for you to sing this season?
Yes. I know. This is the fun about doing, Eli and I mostly come from the film background, so generally when you sign up to do something or you create something, the entire arc, everything that's going to happen. When you do a series, you do that based on, in this case it was a novel and, the first episode that we had, but from that moment on, it's kind of, it's the Wild West. Who knows what's going to come your way? And so, yeah, there were some things thrown at me this season where I thought, oh, okay, I can do this, I think. I don't know. So it was fun. The more I get challenged, the better. I mean, the more I sort of
She can handle it.
I love being challenged. It's really good. Yeah, I do.
She really does.
Bring it.
What would you say some of the felt differences with the new showrunner, Chick Egley, versus season 1?
I think very character-driven. Chick is, all of his is, he comes mostly from that background of, what are the character arcs? What are the layers in these characters? How can I, and he's fast in terms of where he wants to go to another storyline.
Yeah.
Really exploring
he's
but not,
great.
yeah.
I mean, Chick worked under James Cameron on Dark Angel. Like the guy, he's worked with he's such an amazing range of experience working with such great producers and creators. That what was really nice was we had the book last year. We had an amazing team last season, but it did feel like we didn't have that one. So the book was the central voice. And we needed one person that could really be the central voice and the filter for all their ideas. Because I'm gonna have a million ideas, but I also know that my presence, I can't just show up and be like, hey guys, what if we do this? Like, I need to, we all agreed the best way to work was to, everyone kind of filters everything through Chick. And, you know, I could say, what if like, you know, Peter like is turning again. Like, I remember saying to him, I was like, what if like, I want to see what happens to Peter. He's been so careful about being a Vargulf, like, not being aware of like, and where he can transform, and it's such a secretive thing that he would only let Roman. So like, what if at the beginning of the second season he's just doing it to a bunch of strangers, and we realize just how completely far gone he is, and how he just doesn't give a fuck about anything. And Chick's like, and I was like, what if he's doing it like just to fuck with some people? And Chick's like, no man, he should. I was like, what if he's doing it like making them think they're hallucinating and thinking it was drugs? And Chick's like, yeah, he should be doing it as a grift. We're like, that's it. Like, it's a drug deal. We're using it to like trick people into thinking they're hallucinating, to sell drugs, sell fake drugs to get money. Like, and that's what we loved about Chick, was we could say, what happens to you when you have that capability and you force it against the wrong moon? How does that start to make you go insane? What does that wreak havoc on Peter? And how it was really a metaphor for being self-destructive and going on some kind of crazy drug binge you're not supposed to do. But then Chick just understood how to take that idea and immediately incorporate it. It was like, of course, Linda's in legal trouble and Peter's got to get her out, so that you understand why he's doing it. Like, and that's what's great about someone like Chick, is he could take any crazy idea we threw at him and really understand how to turn it into story and turn it into character-based story. I'll like think visually, think of ideas, think of characters, this or that. And you know, Famke's obviously, she's a director and a creator and writer, and we all have ideas. But Chick is so experienced and cool, and we really love him. And he was a great addition to the show. And he has his own ideas as well. So it just became one central voice to filter everything through.
Yeah, a lot of experience in television, obviously. And no violence was just there in a grotesque way that was just meant to shock people or something. It was paid off because of whatever it had preceded, you know, in terms of character development or whatever. It was interesting, really good.
When Hemlock Grove first came into being, you know, you guys were really kind of breaking new ground, so you didn't know like how long you might be able to continue this story. But once you both found out that you would be back for a second season, and possibly even longer, what were the story aspects you were most excited about sort of continuing once you knew this narrative was going to go on?
Well, you never really know that, obviously, with any kind of series. You know, that's always on a year-to-year basis, whether or not you're successful enough to continue. And so we're all very lucky and privileged that we're part of another season on this. But there were many storylines. I just think that the characters were so rich to begin with. So and then because we have such a large cast, although we killed a bunch of them off, but then reintroduced new characters. You know, it's just, there's a lot of people and a lot of storylines that you just, you know, and you only have so many hours to explore them. So it's just, everybody gets their share this season to.
Yeah, also, I remember when we talked about Twin Peaks and how the network made David Lynch and Mark Frost solve Laura Palmer's murder, and the frustration it led to on the part of the creators, where they were never going to solve the murder, and each week you'd learn a little clues, but it was really about the people in the town. And then they solved the murder, and they had to come up with Wyndham Earle, a new villain in the Black Lodge, which a storyline I love, but you could tell viewers, like, you could feel there was like a bit of a restart. So when Brian McGreevy pitched the novels, and we explained it to Netflix, we talked about a 3-season, 3 to 5 season macro arcs of where the characters are ultimately going. But after the first season, we sat down and we looked at those macro arcs. Okay, this is where Peter and Roman are going to, this is Roman and Olivia. Like, we had, sort of a multi-season plan for where the characters were going to go. And then we brought in Chick, who's like completely fresh set of eyes, who just watched it as a fan. He's like, I love the show, but here's where I'd take it. And suddenly you're like, oh my God, that's actually an amazing idea. So it was a combination of sort of knowing the macro arc of where we were going to go, but also seeing what worked. And we're like, everybody loves the guys here. When you see Roman and Peter together, when they're interacting together, that's when the show is really, for us, when you see like Roman and Olivia together, there were just certain things, Norman and Olivia, there were certain storylines that just worked. When you're watching it on screen, those are the scenes when the storyline leaves, you're like, oh, let's get back to that one. So that played a factor in it as well. But having Chick Egley come in with a completely fresh set of eyes, who wasn't part of the creative genesis of it at any point, really kind of injected, I guess you could say, it's like a blood transfusion to the show.
And even though you have a lot of dark elements, obviously, and gruesomeness to it, it still feels like at its core this is almost a family drama, a really messed up family drama.
It is, as most family dramas tend to be.
Yeah, well, I mean, Brian grew up in Pittsburgh and knew a lot about, we talked with Drew Boughton, our production designer, about the Carnegie dynasty and the Steele dynasties of that era, of that period, and what this family was, and how in the ashes of the steel industry, the biotech industry has risen, and how this family, the Godfrey family, has, kind of taken over, and how Olivia has worked her way in and taken control of it.
Or slept her way in.
Slept her way in.
However you want to put it.
But we like that. We love that idea that it's a demented, strange. At the core of it, it is a dysfunctional family.
And you were talking a bit about how it's a small town feel at the beginning, and it does also feel like while it does have aspects like you're talking about a Carnegie-esque kind of feel to it, it does also feel like you could pick this town up and put it pretty much anywhere. So is that a purposeful kind of ubiquity that you've tried to create?
Absolutely. I remember when we found the locations to film the town exterior outside Toronto, there were certain things that we shot in Pennsylvania as well, but it looked like it had a feeling of certain towns like in Massachusetts where I grew up, and other people from their small towns, and everybody knows what it is to be in a small town where everybody knows each other's business. And even though I'd never been to Seattle or Washington, and when I saw Twin Peaks, that was a small town. We were like, okay, the sheriff and the girl who works at the diner. There were just certain things that make it immediately relatable. So when you can put yourself, when aspects of the town, as strange as it might be, or aspects of the family, the complicated relationship between a mother and her son, who's rebelling in certain ways, that's when the show becomes accessible and relatable. And you see it. What I noticed is people relating to Shelley, who, her poetry and her outward, like I found that a lot of, the most kind of fan art, fan fiction, this Dave Navarro, I ran into him, he's like, what's good? Please tell me Shelley isn't dead. Like, Shelley's my favorite. Like, you can see there were a lot of people that have that introspective, poetic, sensitive side to them that really connected to that character and loved it. So, and also there's a fantastic brother-sister relationship that even in the monstrous form, and even in the form of the Oopiers, there's still a family. And that's what's fun. I think that's what makes it relatable.
In season 1, you guys went a lot of places with like the gore and the transformations. What are you guys more excited about for season 2? Do you guys amp it up?
Well, don't ask me that question. I'm not really gore. I'm a little spooked by all of it. So thankfully they kept me away from the majority of it.
Did you pitch any ideas?
Yes, of course, absolutely. I mean, that's part of the fun. I mean, for me, the fun of the show is, all the horror that I've done has been very reality based. It's really about, my films are about a clash of culture, or people that leave a very safe world of suburbia and get into something, seeking excitement or danger and get in way over their head. But it's always a human. So this for me is this fantastic playground where suddenly you have these Oopiers and Vargulfs and Dr. Price and his creations and Project Ouroboros and all the different things. It's such fertile ground for storytelling, and I have all kinds of ideas like that. So obviously for me, and look, we have an amazing team of writers and directors, and Todd Masters who did the effects, and we have everyone who's doing the show is super, super, super into it, and you could tell the directors are all trying to outdo each other, which I love. Like, if someone sees the episode and they're like, okay, this one's bloody, or they're like, okay, I'm gonna pump, there's one episode we pump like 30 gallons, like it's some insane amount of blood, like more, like as much blood as I did in 2 Hostel movies they did in one scene in the show, and it looks fantastic. I remember they didn't tell me that, like I knew it was in the script, and I saw it, and I remember seeing the footage going, are you kidding me? Like this is spectacular. Like they're just, it's a fountain. It's like a fire hydrant. It's amazing. So yeah, I love it. Not on a fountain.
I feel like I wasn't there then.
Is there any plans to, since the novel is
done with first season, are there any plans to expand the universe to other creatures or using your imagination?
Well, there were ideas. I mean, Brian McGreevy had an idea. We wanted to we're going to do a graphic novel, a bridge between season 1 and season 2, and there were, it's still something, some kind of graphic novel or something, it's a whole universe that we love to keep expanding on. But it's really up to the fans. Fans can stick with the show and give season 2 a chance. It only allows us the opportunity to further explore it in many, many different ways. There's all sorts of things we're thinking of.
So there is a possibility of like leaving the small town into other areas. Obviously, not everything happens, supernatural all there, right?
Right now, we're in Hemlock Grove.
Yeah.
But
We stayed.
But obviously there's the Order of the Dragon, there's the White Tower. I mean, there are certain forces. There's a reason everyone is coming to Hemlock Grove, and there's a much bigger picture at play as to why this town is becoming the vortex for all this particular type of energy. But yeah, there are a lot of ideas we would like to explore. I mean, it's something, we want to lay the groundwork for a show that can go for many seasons and explore many ideas, because the thing about horror is the very thing you go for is the thing that loses its potency upon repeated viewings. If you watch a comedy, the more you watch it, the funnier it gets. You can watch Anchorman for the 100th time and it's funnier than the first time you saw it because you've developed inside jokes with your friends. Mm-hmm. With horror, the very thing you go for is that scare, and that's the thing, once you know it's coming, it's never as strong the second time. So when you create a show, you have to make so much more than that. It can't be about the scare, it's got to be about the characters and the story, the intrigue, the universe, the world, and those great moments, and those great lines, and the things they do, and the way they dress, and the way, with such this fantastic cast with, obviously Famke and Dugray and Bill and Landon and Madeline Brewer's joined us. We're laying the groundwork for a really, really rich universe that we want to explore in 200 different directions. But it's really up to the fans at this point if people continue letting the show grow.